California.
I just started the webinar, so I'll let Michelle know that she can call in.
Okay.
And how are you, Jim?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. Very nice. Thanks. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed meeting you and talking with you.
Likewise,
Good.
likewise.
Thanks. Yeah, it was really weird having to go to Washington to meet her.
And we're literally like, you're in Riverside and I'm in San Gabriel Valley, so we're not too far from each other.
Yeah.
Less than 50 miles away.
Right. Hi, Michelle.
I know you're on mute. I put
Can you hear me
allowed to
now?
talk and unmute. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
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 Hey, Michelle, is it Dr. Yen or Yenny?
Jenny, like
Jenny.
Jenny.
Yenny like Jenny. Okay. Hi, Heather.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Hi, Heather.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
Oh,
morning.
almost good afternoon, sorry.
Hi.
Hi, I'm having issues with my video, so give me 1 second.
There you are.
Thank you. Yeah, my camera was open, but apparently not showing. Okay. Let's see, Michelle, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm going to stay on mute so you don't hear background noise, but I'll be here.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Jennifer, I think everyone is here, but are we waiting on Dr. Yenny?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
It looks like Dr. Yenny is here.
Great.
Upside down, but here.
Okay, should we just wait until it's officially 12 o'clock and then I think we can go public. Are we, Jennifer, are we public right now?
Yes.
Okay, and are we recording? It looks like it shows that.
Yes, we should be.
Okay.
Part of why I had to start it a little early is because Michelle called in and then I had to change her phone number to her name, but people can't call in until the webinar started.
Got it.
Okay, the time is 12 o'clock. It looks like we have almost everybody, if not everybody here. So let's get started. And Jennifer, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Heather Benton,
Here.
Justin Delacruz,
Here.
Jim Hiding,
Here.
Tracy Lesage,
Here.
Philip Spiegel. Philip Spiegel. Martin Williams,
Here.
Dr. Yanni.
Here.
Okay, we have 6 out of 7 members present and we have a quorum.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
At this time, I will open it up for public comment. Do we have anyone from the public joining us today? Doesn't look like it.
I don't see any attendees except for Michelle, and the rest of it is panelists who are either staff or on the Oversight Committee.
Okay. It looks like we have another person joining from the bar.
Randy.
Randy.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, well, if there's no public comment, we'll move on to the next item, which is welcoming our new member. It is Dr. Yenny, Elise Yenny. And so I think it would be best for us to kind of go around over through the members and just kind of introduce ourselves. So Dr. Yenny, I'll start and then I'll tag someone, and I guess the structure, how you got involved with LAP, and what you do for a living, if not a lawyer. So I'll start. I'm Justin Delacruz. I'm the chair, that's kind of weird, of this Oversight Committee. I've been part of this committee for 7 years now. But I was a member, or I was a participant in the program over 11 years ago. And it saved my life and provided me with the life that I have now. And so this is my way of giving back. My day job is that I'm a government lawyer, and the type of work changes every couple of years. So welcome, and it's great to see you. So I'll tag Tracy.
Hi, welcome. My name is Tracy Lesage. I am a senior assistant public defender in Orange County. I've been here over 25 plus years. Part of my trajectory in the office is I used to oversee our specialty courts, which like our drug courts or DUI court, mental health courts. And that's when I became interested in this type of work. I was appointed by the governor, and I've been on the committee probably 8 years, 9 years, somewhere like that. I should have checked. Next time I'll check, but I think I was just before Justin came, or a couple of years before that. So that's how I'm estimating. But it's been enjoyable, lots of good things the committee does, and I'm happy to see it grow and continue to do good things for people. So welcome. Should I tag someone? How about Martin Williams?
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Martin Williams. I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist, and I got involved with this committee because Alex Ufik tricked me into it. And I've been involved with the LAP for a few years. I've run a support group for people in the program, and I've been on the evaluation committee, and now I'm on this. And I am involved in criminal forensic psychology, and a lot of my work involves people with substance abuse problems. And I'm in private practice in San Jose. That's all for me. I will tag Jim.
Hi, Elise, this is Jim Hiding. How are you? Good to meet you, even though it's long distance. You know, I just met Lita in Washington, DC. We had to go to the CoLAP meeting to meet in person. So it was quite amazing thing. She lives about 60 miles away or less, and yet we go to Washington, DC to meet, you know. Anyway, I'm a private practice lawyer. We have a firm of 5 lawyers, small practice in Riverside. But I've been involved with sobriety since I got sober, I guess. And so it's been 36 years, and went through a treatment center and then got involved with the bar and started to promote sobriety and connection within the other bar. So I was eventually the president of the other bar back in the 90s. And then I got involved in the politics of the county bar and then the state bar. I was on the board of governors at the time that the LAP came into existence in 2002. And then has followed it along. We kind of worked on the formation of it between 2002 and 2006 when I was the president of the state bar. And then I got involved in the Commission on Lawyer Assistance Programs, which was the ABA arm of all of this, and was the commissioner overseeing the 9 Western states for the Commission on Lawyer Assistance Programs. It was really interesting to me that although California was the forerunner, really the forerunner of getting lawyers into a relationship of recovery and treatment, we were one of the last, if not the last, to have an actual formal LAP program. So it's been really interesting to watch the evolution of it. It's gone through a lot of changes over the course of these few years that it's been in existence, 20 years now actually. But lately, I think it's been on a very good trajectory and very positive trajectory. A lot of idea of, I guess, recognition of how recovery promotes the protection of the public, which is something that we kind of ignored in the state bar for a while, I think, but is now quite preeminent and quite central to our existence and a wellness ideal for lawyers. So I guess that kind of explains all of my participation. So I've been very interested in watching LAP, and I was fortunate enough to be appointed through the other bars body about 3 or 4 years ago. So welcome. And who's left? Heather?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Heather. I am an attorney. I've been practicing since 2011, been sober 10 years, 4 months, and like 16 days or something like that, but who's counting? I got involved with the LAPOC program because I was sitting on the California Lawyers Association Board of Representatives, and it's something that sobriety and mental health is something that's a passion of mine. I'm actually starting a practice in special education and mental health advocacy. So I feel like this is really an arena where I can get involved and do something that I'm passionate about. So this is my first year on the Oversight Committee. I'm excited about what's coming up, what we're doing. I really think it's a great program. And so welcome to you. Is there anyone left? Is there anyone left?
I
No.
think Dr. Yenny's next.
Dr. Yenny.
Hi, I'm Elise. You can all please call me Elise. So I am similar to Martin. I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist. My training has primarily been in criminal forensics, but I'm starting to kind of branch out. I'm very early career. So I'm starting to branch out into some civil interests. And the reason that I got involved with this committee is I actually saw a Facebook advertisement about 4 days before the deadline and thought, this seems really up my alley. I did some kind of lobbying policy work in graduate school and really took an interest into that. And so I was hoping to kind of continue that interest in a way that hopefully will help the community, both through the lawyers in the lawyer assistance program and then the people that they serve as well. So I'm really excited to be here and find out more. I had the chance to talk to Justin and Michelle about just the exciting directions the committee is headed. And so I'm really excited to get on board at a time that it seems like a lot of really good work is happening.
Well, again, welcome, Elise. We're really glad to have you, and great to hear everyone again. So our intros to each other, or reintroductions to each other, will constitute the report of the chair, and we will move on to the consent item, approval of the minutes from March 11th and June 10th. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to review those. And if you have, we'll entertain a motion to, well, regarding those.
I'll move to approve. I think there's 2 sets of them.
We'll do them individually.
Okay, so this is October 3rd? No,
March 11th.
March 11th. I'll move to approve those from that day.
I'll second.
Who
Okay.
seconded?
Heather?
Oh, thank you, Heather.
Any discussion on the March 11th open session minutes?
I'll
Seeing
take a
none.
vote by name if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
And do I take the vote from the motioner and the seconder or no? I
Yes,
probably
you do.
don't need.
You do, but not from the chair.
Okay, thank you. So Heather Benton,
Yes, I pass.
James Hiding,
Yes.
Tracy Lesage,
Approve.
Phil Spiegel, who may not be here still, Martin Williams, Martin, are you on mute or did you approve?
I was muted, yes.
Okay, thank you. Elise Yenny.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a majority to pass those minutes. So on to the next set of minutes for the June 10th meeting.
So move to approve those minutes. Heather?
I'll second.
Okay, so I'll take the votes by roll call. Heather Benton,
Approve.
Jim Hiding,
Yes.
Tracy Lesage,
Approve.
Phil Spiegel, Martin Williams,
Yes.
Elise Yenny.
Yes.
Okay, so that's been approved.
Great, thanks everyone. We will move right along to the staff report and the staffing update. And I don't know, this is usually when I hand it over to Michelle, but maybe I'm handing it over to you now, Erica.
So why don't I go ahead and briefly introduce myself and say why Randy and I are both here, and then we can go ahead and have Michelle update on what is now her side of LAP, which is monitoring LAP. So hi everyone, good afternoon now. Again, my name is Erica Doherty. I am the managing attorney in the Office of Professional Competence, and Randy is the director of that office. So as I believe Michelle discussed with you at your last meeting in June, the lawyer assistance program has been split into 2 offices now. So the monitoring program continues to be in the Office of Professional Support and Client Protection. And what was the support side has been moved into the Office of Professional Competence. So with that, we're fortunate to have Lita and Jennifer having moved over to our office. And we also had a senior program and analyst position added to our office, which was a vacant position that we interviewed and hired for. I'm pleased to report that we've, I guess, borrowed or taken Alex Ufik from Michelle's side of monitoring LAP, and he will be coming over to the Office of Professional Competence to work on exclusively on the support LAP side. He'll be starting in our office early December, so we'll look forward to having him. And that is the staffing update on our side. I don't know, Randy, if you wanted to add anything there, but otherwise I'll turn it over to Michelle. I don't know if she's able to.
I was waiting to see if Randy was going to say anything. It's like,
Oh, no, go ahead,
Nothing more
Michelle.
from
See.
professional confidence.
Okay. Michelle, and I, in a related matter, Alex has moved over to the support services side. So we now have a vacant clinical rehabilitation coordinator position on the monitoring side of LAP, which was posted publicly just this past Monday. So we're starting to collect applications and hopefully able to introduce a new CRC before, at the next Oversight Committee meeting. And that's the only staffing change and difference that's on the monitoring side. Everyone is really plugging away. The CRCs are working hard, as Lita will probably explain in her outreach, which has been quite effective, and we've had lots and lots of callers lately. I'm going to put myself back on mute now.
Okay, so it sounds like we are moving to C2 LAP outreach and probably Lita.
Yes. So good afternoon, everyone. So I'll give you, since we have a lot of new members on the Oversight Committee, I'll give you a little bit brief background on myself. My career started about 40 years ago with the Los Angeles Police Department. I worked everything from patrol advice, narcotics, internal affairs, and everything between. For the last 23 years, I've been in the health and wellness and fitness industry as a certified fitness instructor and health and wellness consultant. I'm also a business owner. For the last 10 years, I've been with the State Bar of California. 5.5 of those years, I was with the Office of Chief Trial Counsel, in which I assisted in the investigation and prosecution of attorneys for misconduct. And the last 4.5 years, I've been with the Lawyer Assistance Program conducting outreach. So my total job is to make sure that all, I believe it's 275,000 California attorneys know about the LAP program, and all of our over 25,000 law students and barbicans in the state of California know about the program and the resources that are available to them. So I'm happy to report total presentations as of this date. I've conducted our 62, and I have another 23 scheduled to the end of the year, which more and more are coming in every day. And out of the 62 that I've presented on, I've hosted as an MCLE provider with the assistance of my coworker, Jennifer Cantori, 7 of those. And that's where we were the MCLE provider. We've hosted it either because the entity that requested our presentations were not MCLE providers, or I actually hosted it and opened it up to all California attorneys. I've also made presentations to 6 law schools, and we just had one last week where it was open to all law students and bar applicants in California. And in that one, I had about 142 registered, about, I'm trying to remember the number now. I had 23 law schools actually represented of the about 40 that participated in that one presentation. And so the presentations that I have conducted of the 62, this is to government agencies, bar associations, law firms, organizations, regulatory agencies, etc. I also just sent an email out to all over 25,000 law students and bar applicants. That goes out twice a year. We have quarterly newsletters that are sent out via admissions to the law students and bar applicants about our program, quarterly newsletters that go out to all our licensees via communications. I also have a yearly newsletter that goes out through our Attorney Resource, ARCR, Attorney Resource and Consumer Regulations Department, when they send out the billing for the licensee fees. And our communications department does an excellent job in posting social media to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram about the LAP program and the presentations that I conduct. But one of the best things that has happened is a story that I want to tell you about when I was conducting a presentation at the San Gabriel Valley Bar Association. Right after my presentation, a female attorney about my age came up to me and she said, I just want to let you know that LAP saved my life. And she told me the story about just when COVID hit, she was in charge of a nonprofit organization and she was going to have to lay off about 30 of her staff, like her entire staff, because of COVID, which caused her a lot of stress and anxiety because, you know, they had families and so forth, and, you know, the trickle down effect. So she was also having marital problems. She started drinking, and just one thing led to another, and she started to spiral downward. Right when she just about hit rock bottom, she remembered a presentation I conducted a year prior, and she remembered about the lawyer assistance program, and she contacted our office, and it saved her life. And I'm so happy. It was really heartwarming to hear that story from her. So
Really good.
our program is wonderful, and I'm so excited to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lita. Thank you.
Thank you, Lita. And thank you for sharing that. It helps put it in perspective that, you know, our work does, you know, affect a lot of people and help a lot of people. Did anyone have any questions for Lita on the outreach? And also, I'm sorry, I skipped on the staffing update. If anyone had any questions for Michelle or Erica on that too. So I'll kind of open it up for the last two items.
This is Jim Hiding. I do want to impress on Randy and the other members of the staff how important Lita's work has been in getting the word out. You know, we were pretty lax about that for a long time, and it's really, really important what she does. And so whatever support the State Bar can give her to continue in that process and to continue with, I know sounds like a minimalization, maybe at least the effort that's been accomplished already, you know, so that we can improve upon that. Please give her your total support, give the program your total support in that regard. So thank you. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry to get so emotional. It's just, I really am passionate about my job.
This is Heather. Lita, I love that you're passionate. And I had the opportunity when I was at the city attorney's office to attend one of your trainings. And I was just blown away by not just the quantity of information you gave out in such a short time, but the passion you displayed. I do have a question though. Are any of these being done in person, or are they all electronic now via Zoom or whatever?
Yes, I've had a lot of requests to conduct presentations in person. As a matter of fact, for the year, I've conducted 6 in person, and several of those have been at large conferences, one of which was a conference that had over 3,000 attendees. I have a conference that I will be conducting for the ABA Forum in San Diego, in which 700 attorneys will be present at that conference. So yes, I'm getting a lot of requests for in-person, which is fabulous because you can really connect to the audience, and because I do my presentations interactively, which the audience loves, the attendees love it. So I'm very excited. We have some new rules now about our travel policy, but I'm hoping that I will still be able to go out and conduct these presentations in person as the requests come in.
Thanks. I guess I just have a second follow-up question is, do you feel that you're able to handle all of this yourself, or do you need support in some other capacity, you know, in another way, or additional persons or whatever, just to get clarity?
As it stands right now, I'm able to manage what I'm doing as far as my presentations. I do understand that I will be having additional responsibilities because now I've moved from the actual LAP program into the Office of Professional Competence, which it seems every day I'm learning something new that we're going to be doing. And I think I'm going to be getting more information today about some additional information. So as of right now, I love doing my presentations. And when it gets to the point that I'm not going to be able to handle the requests that are coming in, I will definitely let my manager, Erica, know. You know, if I can't handle anything, but right now I feel competent that I can. There's just, you know, we have new, I guess, policies and procedures in place that I'm trying to get accustomed to. But thank you for asking.
Got it. Thank you.
So I
Any
think
more?
that's it that I have for my report.
Okay.
Because
Thank
you know
Lita.
me, I can talk for the next 3 hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for Lita, or going back to Michelle on the staffing update? Didn't look like any. So we'll move to item C3, recent developments. I'm not sure who to pass that to. Maybe Erica.
Sure, yeah, so I can briefly address that. I think that what we're really going to be talking about recent developments relates to our business section, which may be actually a good segue at this point, because we're going to put item C4, the strategic plan, on hold for a brief amount of time. But essentially, recent developments are going to discuss the split between monitoring lap and support lap, and kind of where we are and what we're hoping to do with that split.
Before we move on to business, I was wondering if we still had our report or just an idea of where our engagement numbers are. This was something several years ago that was a concern for the Board of Trustees, and something that we had been tracking as a committee for a while. And we saw a sharp uptick in engagement. And I wanted to make sure, particularly as Lita came on board and started doing the outreach. So I was wondering if we still had some kind of information on, you know, what our engagement or enrollment looks like. I feel like that was normally part of the staff report, but maybe it's been a couple business meetings, so I was hoping if we could keep that there, especially if it's still a concern for the Board of Trustees.
Yes, that's
Certainly.
very important.
So I don't know if Michelle, I don't know if you have the numbers related to monitoring readily available. I can tell you that unless Jennifer has them available, I don't have the support side numbers currently accessible, but we can certainly have those ready for you at our next meeting.
Yeah, that would be great. I think it would be
I can
really.
tell you.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can tell you off the top of my head that our enrollment in monitoring has, which still includes the support program as we had it before, because that's not officially moved over to the support services side yet. So, but all the people enrolled on that side, we've been hovering in the mid 160s, 162, 165 for most of the year, and I don't have the numbers of how many people have come in each month. There was a big surge last year, and so we kind of really skyrocketed for a while. We're not at last year's numbers at this point in the year, but I think we're about on par with kind of how we had been averaging before last year's like giant surge.
Okay.
I agree that that's important to get that kind of a dashboard report to see what kind of effect we're having. So.
And I know from the email that I sent out to the over 25,000 law students and Barbicans that went out about 2 weeks ago, I believe we had over 200 responses that requested additional information on our program, and which ended up being very overwhelming for Jennifer and Matt, because they're the only two that can answer the emails and so forth. But we did do something that has helped with answering those. We created a new form, so we can just send them, it's called Formsite. We send them a link, and then the person fills out the information as to what type of information do they want. Is it something on support services? Is it more on the lawyer assistance program? Do they want a presentation at their school? And so forth. So that's worked out extremely well. And I know that from that email, the clinical rehabilitation coordinators had a huge increase in the number of intakes that were conducted within the last couple of weeks. And I think they're still in the process of conducting those. So it's been working. The outreach has been working.
I don't have the numbers cumulative, but I do know that last month, or for the month of September, which we're on the last day of, we had 17 intakes, which is a really high number.
Wow.
If we had that many intakes each month, that would be over 200 intakes. And so we, thanks to Lita's outreach, we have been very busy.
Well,
I'm
that's
not sure.
good to hear.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Heather.
I'm not sure who this question goes to, but I guess I'm just wondering, we had sort of a huge rise in uptakes in intakes last year and participants. Now it seems like maybe it's going up a little bit. Do we know to any degree whether there is a large contingency of attorneys out there who actually need the services and just aren't accessing them? Or whether it's more of like people are in more of a stable mode and are not really in need of the lawyer assistance program at this time in the same capacity that maybe it was last year?
Well, statistically, there would be a lot of lawyers who need the program. You know, statistically, it would tell you that there are a lot of them out there that aren't participating, but not that they don't need it.
Thanks, that's helpful.
Well, and this is
That's what I
going
was
to
trying
lead,
understand.
that idea will lead into the discussion later. Don't want to spoil any surprises, but that's what we'll be talking about, is how to reach more people, because like Jim was saying, there are statistically lots and lots of attorneys, far more than use our program, who have substance use problems, mental health problems, even, you know, stressors that could be helpful for them to deal with. But there's, with the LAP currently, there's the monitoring option, and there's a lot of very intensive interventions, and this is a comprehensive program. And then there's the brief counseling, and then there's the career counseling, which are two very, very brief interventions, but nothing in the middle for people that might need a medium intervention, or they might need something that's more specific or directed in a different area. So that's one of the things that's exciting about this split with the programs, is the support services side will be able to develop different services that we don't have now that can help reach a larger number of attorneys.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, I look forward to this conversation.
Okay, I think we can move now to item D1 now. That's the discussion of the CoLAP conference. So that'd be Jim and Lita.
Okay, well, I'll start it off if you don't mind, Lita. I appreciate the fact that the LAP supported us going to the conference and allowed me to attend on your behalf. And so I attended, you know, the 3 days of the conference, went to every class I could, and saw Lita there and the other members there from our California contingent, you know, at every conference, and so every part of it. So it was really good to be there. I'll just give you kind of an overview. The conference itself, I would give probably maybe a C rating, and the reason it's got such a middle of the road rating is because while the conference was really good, the presenters were really good, the exhibitors were good, the materials when we got them were good. They didn't have any materials available, even electronically, during the conference itself. And so all of the slides and all of the everything else was just, you sit there and listen and do what you want to do with that. The notes in the program that I made can't be retrieved from the program, so you have to have the program to see what notes you made, and you can't pull them out of the program. There's no way to transfer them or send them somewhere else, and it's just wasn't very well thought out as far as the materials go. However, the materials themselves, I printed them out when I finally got them. See, they're really very excellent materials. They have a lot of statistics and a lot of information. And so I'll be happy to share any of that with anybody that wants it. So eventually I'd give the conference a much higher grade than the C, but in attending it, you know, it was hard to kind of keep up with some of the things when they were going through them so quickly. So, but we were welcomed by the American Bar Association president. She was very congratulatory and praised the conference and said very nice things about it. That was Deborah Enoch, and I'm gonna slaughter her name, Enox Ross. But she did a remote congratulatory welcome, and so that was nice. We also were welcomed by the president of the Washington DC bar and the leader of the conference. Some of the things that we talked about and some of the things that you have expressed interest in are medication assistance treatment. Then we went through seniors and suicide and substance use and how aging affects people, and did statistical analyses of how aging affects your cognitive abilities, and yet how that can be masked with what they call the cognitive reserve. So those of us in this profession are blessed with pretty good brains and the ability to function in society usually. And so those cognitive reserves that we get along with that allow us to mask some of the effects of aging, some of the effects such as a slower decision-making process or slower analytical process as we get older, forgetfulness, memory loss, decision-making being not quite as quick and spontaneous, maybe not as quick a reply. And they had graphs of how aging causes a fall off in those kind of mental acuity skills. And you know, it slowly declined in the 70s probably, and in the 80s it had quite a sharper decline. But of course that's an average and it doesn't apply to everybody. And so they talked about some of the things on how to spot some of the declining or some of the signs and symptoms of the decline and the mental effects. They went through the statistics of how there will be many more aging lawyers than there used to be because of the health, you know, improvements and different things. And so they expect there to be quite a number of lawyers who are aging but yet have not retired. They express concerns about some of the things that go along with that. And they also express concern that the lawyers themselves usually can't recognize or don't recognize or won't recognize the fact that they're declining and that they are being affected by age. And so they talked about some of the ways to address this and some of the things to look for, and how alcohol, drugs, and other things affect aging, including trauma, and the effects of aging. And so those are some of the things that they talked about with seniors. They talked about suicide, and they had very good panelists on there. There was a woman, Joan Biebelhausen from Minnesota, who's always been very concerned about lawyer suicide, and she presented. And but one of the most interesting things I found in the conference was the idea of medication assisted treatment. And they went through a lot of information about medication assisted treatment and the Department of Justice and what is approved, what isn't approved, how oxycodone or OxyContin was so impressive on the dopamine production. It was the highest, it was the drug that produced the most dopamine in application to the human brain. But in any event, they discussed also the drug assisted treatment and how it's really not what they would consider the goal that we should have, because there are several factors that go into medication-assisted treatment that allow some kind of residual. So there's a dependence on the drug, a continued dependence that may be occurring. The best option, if we can get there, is to have people drug-free and and able to think and perform as without any assistance whatsoever as far as chemically goes. But there was this one thing that was really interesting. A fellow by the name of Bonci, B-O-N-C-I. Bonci is, I think he's French. Was he French, Lita? Was it Bonci French? I don't know. Anyway, he's a MD. He's a neurologist and a psychopharmacist. And he's developed this process of using magnets. And so it's called a transcranial magnetic stimulation, so TMS. Now, the other things we were talking about, medication-assisted treatment, MAT and MAUD, was a medication treatment plus the plus groups and therapy. And then this is a third alternative, which is transcranial magnetic stimulation. And this is kind of cutting edge, and I don't know if it's voodoo or not yet, but it's kind of cutting edge stuff where they map the brain and determine where the pleasure centers are. And then they use magnets that focus in on this particular area. Now it sounds voodoo-y so far, doesn't it? But what they do is they stimulate that part of the brain that is the pleasure center that they want to stimulate to maybe cut down the anxiety, cut down the fear, cut down the brain changes that have occurred because of chemical dependency, and to enhance the feeling of well-being. And so they use these magnets somehow to focus in on that and create the increase in the pleasure center, the dopamine, or whatever it may be, the production of that thing which the brain needs to increase the pleasure. So in other words, instead of medication assisted, it's this other magnetic assisted treatment which promotes the well-being of the person in order to allow them the time to get into recovery and to get the counseling they need to feel safe and secure in their recovery, to lose the anxieties and the depression and the other things that come along with the cutback in use of drugs or alcohol. And so it was very interesting, and all those things are available to us. And so this fellow was from Miami, GIA Miami. But we met a lot of people that were very interesting. I think it was Jennifer, maybe, or Michelle, somebody, maybe Michelle, expressed an interest in toxicology and the support of toxicology. There was a fellow that, an MD that discussed toxicology and lab work and how important that is to support treatment. And he mentioned that he was sober like 18 years and he still has does testing because he feels that it supports the the person. And I do believe that in many cases it does support the recovery of the person, because they know in the back of their head this testing is coming up, that's one thing that they want to do to keep sober, is to make sure that they can, quote unquote, pass this test, show a clean test. And so I think that is important. And he has a toxicology or a lab center back east. And, one of the things that I found was a little disappointing was all of the exhibitors were kind of from the East Coast or right there about Florida up to New York, Massachusetts, somewhere in there, Pennsylvania, but none really, maybe Chicago, maybe, but they didn't get out west at all, really. So I think that's my report. And so I'll turn it over to Lita, and then we'll allow you to ask any questions that I won't know the answers to.
So I'm going to be very brief because it seems that Jim covered just about everything. But going back to the beginning of what Jim was talking about, the papers, what I'm noticing now at most conferences and conventions, they use an app. And so everything was on this app. And if you didn't have your cell phone with you, you couldn't figure out anything. I mean, they didn't even have the agenda on a piece of paper. You had to download the app and look at everything on your phone. And for those of us who are old school, like myself, I'm a senior citizen, you've got to come into the 2022s and learn how to maneuver all this. But I was able to maneuver most of the little things on this app it had. But I agree with Jim. I like to have a piece of paper, and I like to write old school, like with a pen and paper, write down my notes. And so that was something that you had to bring in your own paper if you wanted to write something down. The other thing I noticed was that I had applied to be a speaker at this conference. There wasn't much diversity when you looked at the room, when you looked at the audience, and when you looked at the presenters. There wasn't much diversity there, and they asked for a lot of, in the presenters, they wanted to make sure that they had, diverse presenters from all different backgrounds, etc. But I heard a lot of comments about that. Also, I had a note here. A lot of the states had their entire office there. So, here we are, California, the biggest state, we're like a country almost compared to other states. And these tiny little states had, like 10, 15 people from their LAP program there at the conference. So I felt kind of bad, like we're this huge state, we should have had more people there to represent. But one thing I found was, like, during all the breaks, let me back up just a little bit. When they had the introduction of each state, normally you would go up in person, and everybody, let's say from California, would go up and say, hi, I'm so-and-so from California Lab, and introduce yourselves. This time they had a pre-recorded video that each state made. They had 30 seconds. So when Michelle came on for our video to represent California, I jumped up and, yeah, California, because I'm proud of our state.
She did, I guarantee it.
And prior to that, it was like dead silence, like nobody said anything about their state or anything. So everybody knew I was from California. So during the breaks, people would come up to me while I'm trying to eat and, oh, what's California doing? They would always ask me a lot of questions. Unfortunately, a lot of the questions they asked me were questions that the CRCs would be better to address and handle. I answered them the best I could, but people wanted to know, what's California doing? How's your program running? What are you doing about this? What, who do you use for your drug testing, et cetera. And so I'm going to put in a suggestion for next year that we really need to have like a session where we just have dialogue among each other with the various states to find out what's going on, because they expect you to do this through your little breaks, and everyone's busy. You only have so many minutes between each session. So that's what I found that it was the most interesting part and beneficial part for me, was meeting people from other states. What are you doing? What are we doing? What's working for you? What's not working for you? And but I really enjoyed the conference. I enjoyed meeting everyone. So I thought it was great, and I appreciate that the State Bar allowed me to attend.
In past years, they did, I don't know if they still do this, they had the commissioners meet a day before, and they would go over all the state progress. The commissioners are kind of responsible to discuss with the states what is going on, and then carry it to their meeting the day before the CoLAP conference. So I don't know that they're doing that yet, or doing it again, which I think is a good thing. That you had a good point, because I didn't know who was from where in that crowd. And that would have been good. I think we did make good connections, though, with other people and with the providers and that sort of thing. It was really good to be there. I met with a fellow from Texas who asked me if I would consider coming to Texas to speak to their annual LAP conference. And so I think between us, we did a good job schmoozing and getting around. So.
And that was one thing. We also had people come up to us and ask us they wanted us to join them in helping them create a conference for their particular states and so forth. And unfortunately, when we looked up their states, I believe it's 22 states that we are not allowed to go to because they're on the ban list. And that's almost half of the United States. So it's very strange that we can't attend anything in those states, but.
Yeah, I agree with Lita on that. Also, I just want to carry to you that international lawyers in Alcoholics Anonymous met after the CoLAP meeting. I attended that as well. And just for your future reference, they're going to recommend to CoLAP that they have a meeting in 2 years in Banff in Canada. So I don't know that the ABA will go along with it, but that's going to be their recommendation. So that's it. Any questions from anybody?
Hi, I know I asked a lot of questions, but I think I think I'm still learning. I guess I had a couple of questions. One is, you talked about how a lot of people had questions about what we're doing and how we're operating here in California. Did you sense the same thing about, like, it was just an opportunity for dialogue, or were they really wanting to know like what we do, and is it worth it to kind of like get in touch with those people and say, hey, here's, let's do a working group or something, I don't know, something that is to actually follow up on some of the questions that were being asked. So I guess I'm just wondering that.
I did get people's business cards, and yes, they did want to follow up. So we exchange information. And I also belong to the Institute of Wellbeing, IWI, Institute for Wellbeing for Lawyers, I think it is,
Right.
which all the, I guess, executive directors and managers or whatever, they're usually on the call, but I was attending some of the meetings. I attended the one yesterday, but because I am doing so many presentations at the same time they have these meetings, I can't be there, but that's usually when the states try to get together and exchange information. But, it's once a month at a certain time period, and there's not, when I was there yesterday, there was only maybe 12, 13 states represented of the 50. But to answer your question, yes, I did get their contact information, and we will hopefully be able to exchange information.
And maybe this is a question for Erica about whether, if Lita can't make it, there's somebody else who could be on the call, just so we can maintain that continuity of connection.
Yeah, so let me speak. There's actually also a CoLAP directors call that happens about at least monthly, but typically it's every 2 weeks that Michelle and I both try to attend. So there are other avenues that are where we are working collaboratively with other states to mirror kind of what Lita said, that, depending on the meeting, there may be more people than others because they're recurring meetings and other priorities do come up. But Michelle or I, or both of us, ideally both try to attend those as well. So we are in communication with other states to kind of be looking at trends and, with the attorney population, sharing resources on things that are working, things that aren't working. And then brainstorming, which is what we're going to be doing as part of this meeting, as to other ideas as well.
Unless anyone has any other comments, and thank you, Jim and Lita, for representing us so well, and staff, of course, who went and representing us so well. I'll put in my plug for especially the newer members to next year, hopefully go if we're able to, because it's a really good experience. You get to meet people who are in a similar situation, trying to do similar work, and you're just bouncing ideas. And I just generally think that it's a good feeling to be in. It's generally a positive experience. So now that's in person again, they have yoga, they have all sorts of stuff. Yeah, that's my plug.
That conference is going to be in Springfield, Massachusetts next year.
October 3rd through the 5th. And I did check, it's a state we can attend.
Okay, so thanks again. And hopefully we can send a good group next year. I think the next item is D3. Discussion of MCLE competency credit hours and topics. I'm not sure who's leading the charge on that, so I'm going to
Is it
pass that to
D2?
you, Eric.
Justin? Is
No,
it
we're
D2?
going out of order actually. So thank you,
Oh.
Justin. I'll give a brief intro and then I think Randy's going to jump in as well on this one. Something that's being considered that will likely go to the Board of Trustees in November is possible changes to the MCLE requirements. For those non-attorneys here, that's the minimum continuing education course requirements. All attorneys are required to do a certain number every 3 years. Jennifer, do you have slides to share? Would you like me to share them?
I can share them. Let me
Thank
bring them
you.
up. Let's see. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay. Oops.
Okay, thank you. So you can go ahead and advance this slide, or this may be in the PDF version, but that's okay. Great. So the existing MCLE requirements for attorneys, just to put everyone on the same playing field for now, are 25 hours every 3 years. If you also have a legal specialization where you're certified by the state bar, there's more requirements than that. But for most attorneys, it's 25 hours every 3 years. Of those 25 hours, only 12 and a half can be self-study credits, meaning that the other 12 and a half have to be participatory. What participatory is has somewhat evolved in our new, remote positive environment. So, it's not just reading an article is more traditionally self-study, but a presentation either in person or via Zoom is often considered a participatory credit. There are specialty credit requirements. Currently, those are 4 hours in legal ethics, 1 hour on competence issues, which we're going to dive into more in just a moment. And then it's 2 hours of elimination of bias, with at least 1 hour focusing on implicit bias and promotion of bias reducing strategies. So one component of possible changes to the MCLE requirements, go ahead, Jennifer, and go to the next slide. Thank you. Is to expand the competency requirement from 1 to 2 hours. We're also evaluating other recommendations that have been made to change the MCLE requirements, including to have technology competency regarding cybersecurity possibility, civility. But what we'd like to focus on today is competency and a discussion of whether or not this group's position or initial thoughts perhaps on whether or not expanding it from 1 to 2 hours may be something that makes sense. I just want to be clear that that would be within the existing 25-hour requirement. So it would not be now 26 hours if competency were added, an additional hour of competency were added, and discuss what that should look like. So if you want to go ahead and advance the slide, Jennifer. Thank you. So this is what is authorized currently for competency credit. It must be education that identifies and discusses the detection of substance abuse, mental illness, or other mental or physical issues that may impair an attorney's ability to perform legal services with competence. And significantly, courses that discuss or provide treatment for any mental, emotional, or physical issues that affect competence do not qualify currently in this area. This includes programs primarily about treatment, meditation, and other forms of stress management. So currently, what is approved for competency credit is fairly limited. And I don't know, Randy, if you want to jump in here, that kind of sets the stage for our discussion.
Sure, it's really that limiting language that's on the screen that has caught the attention of MCLE providers when they seek to develop their offerings and they seek to offer the credit that would satisfy the competency requirement. Actually, we can go to the next slide. So what you're seeing here is what we have received thus far in our exploration of this proposal to expand the competency credit. The San Diego Bar Association did a study, and they have recommended, and what's listed in the bullets there, are their thoughts on how the competency scope could be expanded explicitly. They would like to see well-being, stress management, treatment, going beyond just detection and the symptoms, but focusing on the root causes, and also topics like reducing the stigma of mental illness and substance abuse in the legal profession. We also surveyed our California-approved MCLE providers, as well as a survey to some of the national MCLE providers, and we found some additional recommendations with regard to competency. A possible expansion to include coverage of cultural competency, more on wellness and well-being strategies, and in general mental health awareness. And when speaking about what would be the specific topics that would be potentially approved, because that's where the issues usually arise. It's not in the broad captioning of something as being a topic in terms of well-being or wellness, but really what are you actually teaching, particularly when it comes to strategies such as sections in an education course that is about meditation strategies. And so some of the topics we've seen proposed are engagement versus burnout, rejuvenation and physical activity, work-life conflict management, control and autonomy, meditation for mindfulness, and leader development and training. Now, what I want to call to this group's attention is that we will probably be going back to the board in November with an initial public comment proposal. And that public comment proposal would address how the competency credit requirement might be broadened in scope, enhanced to include topics that were previously not topics for which credit could be offered. And we would welcome any sort of input from any member of this group or any sort of networking or outreaching you might do during that public comment period to make sure we get good feedback on this proposed change. At the moment, the current staff review hasn't really been looking at expanding the actual credit requirement, which is Erica noted was 25 units, 25 hours every 3 years. If you recall, perhaps when MCLE was first launched, it was more than that. It was 36 units, but it has been compressed. But depending on what we receive, that's certainly still a possibility. But before considering expanding the number of required hours, we really want to make sure that the required courses, if there are going to be new required courses or an expansion of the scope of what might be included in a required course, that it's good content. And so there has always been, since the inception of MCLE, the goal of lawyer education to facilitate ongoing competence in terms of the delivery of legal services to a client. And so there has always been a focus on an education and training function of education. And so some things, for example, historically, there was a pitch for law practice management assistance, but it was, in some cases, ascertained that some of the courses on what was supposed to be law practice management were actually sales pitches for technology or services from vendors. And so that wasn't viewed necessarily as meeting that objective of education, training, and learning that would translate to continued competence, enhanced competence for assuring good legal services to clients. And we would be focusing to some extent on that same tension when we talk about, for example, the topic of meditation for mindfulness. Will it fulfill the underlying public policy goal of education and training that translates to actual competent delivery of legal services? And
So
that's all I want to say about the expanding of the MCLE competency credit for now.
And if it's okay, I'd actually like to jump in and introduce our Executive Director, Leah Wilson, to the group, who's here to speak on the strategic plan. And the reason I'd like to do that now is because a lot of the strategic plan and the operational plan that will implement the strategic plan does focus on possible additional course-related things that may be offered for MCLE credit, as well as other areas of outreach through MCLE and otherwise that can assist attorneys. So it may be a good pause moment here to get an overview of the strategic plan, and then we can get into the brainstorm on MCLE, as well as the kind of more general brainstorm on what possible changes we could make to the lawyer assistance program to provide more outreach to the attorneys who may need assistance. So Leah, go ahead. Thank you.
Great, thank you for having me. It's good to see some familiar faces, Justin and Jim, and I haven't had the opportunity to meet others of you. But I am Leah Wilson, the Executive Director, and as Erica mentioned, I think there is a lot of exciting activity contemplated for LAP related work in the strategic plan. And so I'm going to go over that with you, and hopefully that kicks off a good Q&A and or just brainstorming. So let me share my screen here. So the board recently adopted a 5-year strategic plan, 2022 to 2027. And that plan, these are highly abbreviated, but it essentially is organized around 4 key themes. Strengthening the attorney discipline system, not surprising. Enhancing access to and inclusion in the legal system. This is kind of the core of our access to representation and DEI work. Regulating the profession and engaging partners. And in regulating the profession, this is very abbreviated, but what you see in the full strategic plan is reference to through support for competent and ethical practices. And this is really, in my mind, the bar coming a bit full circle. Those of you that have been around know that we used to be both a regulatory agency and a trade association. We split off the trade association in 2018, the California Lawyers Association. And at that time, we took a pretty hard stance about, what is trade association activity? What is regulatory activity? And a lot of, I think, the training and support for attorneys kind of got cast in that trade association bent around the time of our divorce. I think now we have a much more mature thinking and understanding about the nexus between support and competent and ethical practice and involvement in the discipline system and harm to clients. And so in this strategic plan, you'll see a lot of focus on how attorneys can be supported. So I'm focusing today on those areas of the plan that really touch on your work. So first we have goal 2. This is the full articulation of goal 2. And also new in this strategic plan, we have our goals, and then we also have a vision statement. What is it that ultimately we're trying to achieve? And so you can see here, it's all residents have access to quality, affordable, and culturally competent legal advice and services. So the strategic plan is organized around strategies, and then there are operational activities. So here we have, this actually is not, this is not related to LAP, and this makes me think I'm looking at the wrong presentation. So let me shut this one down really quickly and find where I am. I'm sorry. Sorry, everyone. There's a lot of slide decks here.
You need all of this input by November of 22 before the next Board of Trustees decision making?
No, the Board of Trustees has developed the strategic plan. So I'm actually sharing this with you, and you will see that that there are many opportunities here for you all to provide input into the actual specifics of the implementation steps. Okay, I'm not
thank you.
sure exactly what happened here, but I'm going to do my best so that we can move on. So with respect to goal 2, there is there are a series of operational activities that are identified on how to implement various aspects of goal 2. So one of those operational activities has to do with looking at any innovative DEI practices that we may want to apply to the legal profession. And here we're looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're looking specifically at factors that impact people's continued participation in the legal profession. So one of the things that we know from national data that I believe our own California data will replicate when we run the analysis is that women of color in particular are dropping out of the profession at disproportionate rates. And so we want to look at practices that may be in place, not only with other state bars, but also in other professions that we might want to employ here in California to help support particular populations in staying in the profession. And this, you can see that we have flagged there may be a role for LAP related content in the space. The bulk of all of the references to your work, however, are in goal 3. As I mentioned, this is protecting the public by regulating the legal profession. And here you can see the vision statement as state bar licensees exemplify excellence and personal responsibility in the practice of law. So under the first strategy, consumer focus, we have some overarching goals. Position the bar as a resource and increase interactions with licensees beyond basically admissions, collecting fees, and discipline. And obviously, LAP plays a central role there. And then there's a specific focus area around support for competent practice, so practice management support. And when you look at the specific operational activities that have been developed to support those broader goals, we have expand outreach efforts to increase individual utilization of LAP. So this is not like group presentations, but we really want to see the numbers of attorneys using services increase, individual services. Develop new resources, including presentations on substance abuse, mental health, competency, practice management, and aging. And implement specifically practice management activities. And this refers to a multi-year preventative and proactive education work plan. And that work plan will be developed by the Office of Professional Competence, the staff on this that you see on the screen here. And that work plan will ultimately be informed by, I think, some of the discussion that you guys are going to have today and in future meetings. I think this is repeated. Sorry. The next strategy under DEI, support attorneys from disenfranchised and underserved communities who may experience unique practice management and other challenges. So here again, we know from national data, we believe also in California, women of color disproportionately dropping out of the profession. What we don't know, but what we intend to find out is whether attorneys of color, but also attorneys in rural areas are experiencing unique challenges. And with that, we hope that LAP can develop targeted resources and supports. So this is another sort of area of focus potentially for LAP. So we're talking about competency, practice management support. We're talking about a real intersection with some of our DEI work. And here we're also talking about attorneys in particular areas of the state where there really just isn't the resource infrastructure to support the work. And that is my rather odd and abbreviated slide deck. But what I will say is I will make sure to share the correct version of the deck with you. And I hope what you take away is that we hope to see an expansion of what LAP is focused on into areas including aging, competency, practice management, the intersection with DEI, We hope to see increased individual utilization of LAP services. So, as opposed to going out and doing presentations, and really tying the work into our overall effort to improve competency and retention in the profession. And really, so that's sort of the goal here, is to integrate LAP into that broader retention and competency effort that the bar is undertaking. So with that, I'm happy to engage if you have any questions or feedback for me. I think, Jim, you had a question about timing. This has been adopted by the board. As you can see, though, the operational activities are pretty broad. So there's plenty for you guys to do to flesh all of that out.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Sounds like it. Hey, because I know I'm ignorant about this. So what does DEI stand for?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh, no wonder I don't know anything about that stuff. Okay, no, I'm kidding. Just kidding. All right, thank you.
Any feedback or reaction? Does this align with things you guys have been talking about?
I have a question. So is the goal that if we expand the LAP to include those other areas that you included, that would then also assist members of the bar in not maybe be having substance abuse issues or mental health issues? Or are you seeing that they intersect? Is that why the expansion is being requested?
I think it's, there was years ago, there was a much broader scope of what LAP did. In fact, you provided individual practice management support to lawyers through contracts that were maintained between the state bar and various consultants. So I don't know that it's a view that it's tied to mental health and substance abuse as much as it is to the sort of back to the basics understanding of what LAP can be, the lawyer assistance program, not just solely focused on mental health and substance abuse, but also more broadly on how to assist attorneys in performing competently, and that has lots and lots of permutations. I think we also had, and Bridget, you can remind me, perhaps a statutory change this legislative cycle that kind of clarifies that expanded view of what LAP does. And again, the expansion is not new, but it is new for the bar in this post divorce world, I would say. So I call it kind of back to the basics here.
Gotcha. So that was my next question, which you answered with the statutory change. But so it's, so with the well-being portion of it, will the current existing LAP absorb that, or will there be another structure that's created for that section, or we don't know yet, or that's on us to decide?
Yeah, I can answer that, Tracy. So the part of what we're trying to do here is really identify, as Leah was saying, what are some of the things that might cause people to become stressed and might cause them to end up having these types of issues down the line. So as Michelle has helped me to learn as I've been working on this, by the time people need professional monitoring, that which is kind of our traditional, the main LAP program that we have going on now, that's a pretty extreme level of need that people have. And there are many different types of interventions and different things that we can do to support attorneys before they get to the point of needing professional monitoring for substance use. And so that's really what we're trying to build out here. And that's the reason that we put the support LAP into this Office of Professional Competence, because as Leah's describing, in that office, we're really looking at how do we develop out more educational programs and support systems for attorneys in a bunch of ways that will help them ideally before they get to this stress point where they are making decisions that are not the best for their well-being and their health. So it's kind of this whole chain reaction effect. But we've been working with Lita, for example, on law practice management. What are some little more individualized trainings that we can do to help people with managing their law practice, or what type, that's something that's particularly for small and solo attorneys that can cause a great deal of stress and anxiety, kind of as you were describing earlier, Lita, with the woman that you talked to after one of your presentations. So trying to really, that's really what we're looking at here with this plan, is thinking more you know, in targeted ways, how can we kind of break it down, and what is it about the practice of law that causes people to have these issues, and then how can we try to intervene at different levels, if that makes sense. So that's why we transferred that piece of it, the support piece of it, into the Office of Professional Competence, and that office is working on this educational outreach and educational development as a whole for this prevention, trying to prevent attorneys from doing things that will harm clients but also harm themselves.
I do think that there's support in other LAPs and other states and that kind of focus. You know, there has been traditionally, and one of the interesting presentations at the CoLAP meeting was the psychology of ethical decision making and its impact on lawyer well-being. And that flips the flip side both way, lawyer well-being leading to ethical decisions and ethical decisions affected by the lawyer well-being. So I think that's exactly correct.
And I think, Bridget, I'm not sure I heard you mention, so Support LAP merged into OPC, and we do for the first time have, I don't know if it's the first time, but the first time in my tenure with the bar, we've added resources in OPC on the sort of MCLE side to be dedicated to developing content. And not all of the content needs to be MCLE approved either, but that I imagine that that attorney Kathy, that you guys will be seeing her, and she is, you know, should be considered part of the overall set of resources that will be available to do this work that's outlined in the strategic plan.
Is she a part of our budget, our money?
No.
Oh, okay, great.
Any other reactions or comments? I don't know, Eric, if you want to take folks into brainstorming now or how you want to transition. And again, I really apologize for the slide deck, and I'm going to get you the right version.
Yeah, so maybe we can kind of take a bit of a straw poll and see if we want to continue the discussion that we were focused on related to the MCLE competency requirements, or if we just want to have a more kind of general, broad brainstorm at this point.
I mean, if you ask me, my opinion is to do kind of a broader brainstorm, and I think that'll help inform what kind of recommendations we would make regarding MCLE requirements as well, to kind of have a bigger picture.
Sounds great. I agree. Okay, so as Leah pointed out, as Leah pointed out, there's a kind of a lot here. So I don't know, Leah, if it's possible, I don't know if you have to leave, but if it's possible to share your slides again to a certain extent, or to bring up some of these operational type goals so we can kind of focus in on them. I think that could be of value.
I will, but why don't you guys go ahead and start, and I will try to like get this cleaned up a little bit, because it's irritating me that I have version issues.
Sounds good. So I can just speak to one of them within goal 2 briefly. So one of them might be a good starting point is to identify data supported practices that promote retention and advancement of a diverse and inclusive legal profession, and share those through like toolkits and resources, and implementing identified practices that involve support lab. And that may or may not include developing MCLE content. So as Leah pointed out, yes, we are planning to develop MCLE content related to competency, law practice management, other resources, but not everything has to offer MCLE credit. So there are lots of things of value to attorneys that may not necessarily offer MCLE credit. And so looking at things that we can offer to attorneys that may assist them in their practice, so what Bridget said, to may reduce stress and anxiety that can lead to some of these issues, is kind of a proactive approach to pull people, you know, out of the stream, so to speak, before they get downstream and into LAP. I think is kind of where we want to start the brainstorm.
Well, while you're thinking about that, I'll just kind of jump in too. Is one of the questions one of you asked Lita earlier was, how is she going to be able to do all of this on her own single-handedly? And so when we talk about a toolkit, and these are some things that we would like to have your thoughts about too, on this topic, but I was thinking about how can we make some of these things, how can we package some of these resources in a way that, other maybe local bar associations could put on their own presentation, like we would give them the content and package it, and then so that other people can go out and give these presentations too, and we don't have to just rely on one individual to do that.
I just want to ask a question about kind of the boundaries of the LAP and how we're expanding them. It seems to me that you're expanding them into Randy's office quite readily, and and we're talking about professional competence in a very broad way, more broadly than it was ever contemplated, I think, when the legislation was enacted and when the focus was put on mental health and chemical dependency. And so, I mean, when we expand all these different things, which is kind of a pipeline issue in one way, encouraging people to go up and continue on and things like that. And some of the other issues, just seems like we're expanding to an infinite proportion that the LAP could do everything or nothing or somewhere in between. And it seems to me that there is enough. I mean, I'll just talk about what we talked about a little earlier, and the saving of lives, careers, and families. There's enough focus right there that we can spend, an adequate amount of time and really make an impact there, rather than these other things that are a part of the state bar that, were in confusion for several years, whether it was going to be the CLA that took them over, or whether it was going to be the state bar who kept them, what leads to professional competence, what leads to protection of the public, what is just really supporting the lawyers in an association mode, so that argument kind of confused the issues. It was kind of foggy for a while. And it seems like we're getting back to the point where the state bar is actually going to support lawyer education and competence and make sure that the protection of the public is done through that. But my view of the LAP is that we have plenty to do with treating people with emotional and mental issues and chemical dependency issues, that this is a little broad. Now, that being said, I will say that I just feel a little bit, surprised maybe by the issue. I mean, I'm not ready really to address it with good thoughts and maybe an outline of my thinking about how it should all objectively be done. So this is just the coming off the end of my tongue, so that's all. Thank you.
I'm just going to follow in behind Jim on that, because, he's much more mature than I in admitting what he doesn't know or what he doesn't think he knows, or feeling maybe a little unprepared to have this discussion, because I definitely feel unprepared to have a really good discussion about these issues that were just brought to our attention, 20 minutes ago. And they are topics that are a little outside of what we've been discussing over the last several years. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't discuss them. I just think maybe we could have a little more structure. I am a structure person, so I like having here are questions that we want answered. Here are things that we want. I think better that way. Others probably have a better and more expansive way of thinking, but I like having questions kind of posed to us. Think about these things. How do we accomplish them? So that we've kind of have some time to digest and maybe have I don't want to use competent, but a useful conversation about what the topic is. So I'll also throw that out there.
Yeah, this is Heather. I generally agree with Jim and Justin. I think that while the slides were somewhat informative, one of the things that concerns me is that the legislature was so clear when the bar separated and created CLA about what the roles of each group were, but sort of. But I just want to make sure too, we're not crossing over into territory that is not ours to cross over into, is really one of the issues. The other issue is that I also agree with Jim that I wonder if we're expanding beyond what the lawyer assistance program is supposed to be and the mission of the lawyer assistance program. And if that's the case, and that's what the bar wants to do, that's fine. But then we need to reevaluate what is the mission and the goal and the vision of the lawyer assistance program. Because right now it has a very specific purpose. And I was trying to look it up and couldn't find it, but it's really to help those and sort of do a little bit of preventative for those who are having mental health and substance abuse issues. I understand how kind of like aging fits under that, but some of this other, like women of color, I don't know without further data, like why they're leaving the profession and what's causing it. Are they burnt out? Are they stressed out? Are they, or is it like their job is not accommodating their need to have children or whatever? I don't know, or whatever. So I agree that I think this needs more time. I also think we mentioned potentially having our December meeting in person. And I think this is one of those conversations that would really be better had in person, to be honest. I think energy has a really important role in when you have these kinds of conversations. And when we're on Zoom, it's very hard to gauge energy of the room. And when you're in person, it just creates kind of a synergy that doesn't exist over a screen. So I have a lot of thoughts, I have a lot of ideas, but I think that right now we are kind of putting the cart before the horse in a little bit of a sense. And I think we need to really step back and figure out, like, what is our role as LAPOC? What is our role as LAP? And within each of these two silos that exist right now, and then how are we defining it with what the legislature has asked us to do at the time that we separated and created CLA. And this is coming from the perspective of someone who is doing state bar stuff and just turned off of the CLA board. So I've been on both sides of it and I know what the conversations are. And it sounds like there's some overlap here, and maybe if there is overlap, maybe it's something we need to either try to work with them on or clarify who's responsible for it. So that's just my 10 cents.
I just want to jump in on a couple things. So as Leah kind of referenced, in the most recent fee bill that just went into effect, that the legislature actually did expand the LAP, just the umbrella, I guess, under which the LAP program exists. And it adds in behavioral health in general into that. And I can pull up the statute if you think that would be helpful. But so we did just recently have that additional, based on the conversation that we have been having. And, really what we were trying to do today is to do some brainstorming and get some ideas. And I think you're right, Heather. I think having a discussion in person is helpful. But also, this transition of the LAP program, I know are things that I've participated in some meetings with this group before. Maybe there have been different people on the call, but when we separated out, I think it was maybe back in June, we had a meeting talking about how we're keeping the monitoring LAP within the same structure that we have, and then we were transitioning the support LAP over to the Office of Professional Competence. This has been something that we've been working on for a while. And so this is all just how now we're trying to talk today just to show you how it fits into what the board has adopted as a strategic plan for the bar in general, the direction it's heading, and how just it recognizing, and I think these are things that I remember talking with this group about before, listening to, there's such an intersectionality between all of these issues. It's something that I was kind of mentioning when I was talking before about what is it that causes stress and what causes people to end up in this way. And so people that we're not doing any, the monitoring LAP program is still under Michelle, that we still have the CRCs. They're still doing all of the things that they've been doing to support people. But we're trying to figure out, earlier you were asking, what are the numbers? How many people are, taking advantage of the LAP program? And it's good. We've done a lot of outreach, but like we've talked about, maybe these people don't necessarily all need monitoring LAP services, but they are experiencing issues with whether it be mental health issues or behavioral health or wellness in general. And how might we design something and work on supporting attorneys in ways that are broader so that we can reach a broader population? Because right now, if you're just looking at the numbers that we're talking about 100 and some attorneys out of over 200,000 licensed attorneys. So we're trying to really think about how we can meet people where they are. It's not really, I mean, we're trying to explain to you about what the Office of Professional Competence is doing with in general with respect to expanding what our education goals are. But we're trying, I think we're just trying to explain to you how it fits into this prevention mentality and to the support mentality and how we're trying to do that. When it comes to the support lab specifically and the very specific items that we can put these up on the screen, the very specific items in the operational plan that relate to LAP. That's really the part that we'd like to get more discussion on, like how do we expand, our resources page on our website? What are the types of things that we can do to support attorneys, or where are some good places we can send them, for example, is one thing that we're going to talk about. So anyways, I just kind of want to set the stage for the bigger picture and to let you know that the bill literally just passed that does expand a little bit about what they want us to work on in light of all of the different stressors and different ways that mental health can come into play here.
I'm going to make a suggestion. That is that we set aside a day on some time to meet, all together and have a presentation by the State Bar at the beginning of that meeting. And then have our brainstorming session and maybe a facilitated session to determine what we want to do about it, because I will charge this group. We are the Oversight Committee. We are supposed to be determining what the LAP is going to do and how they're going to interact and what our role is, what our body does. And so I'd like to have that opportunity to brainstorm and discuss and evaluate, and then I'll know as much as Bridget does, hopefully, and be able to talk as openly and as inclusively as she can about what's gone into our decision and what's the basis for it, rather than just do it kind of blindly after all of this stuff has been discussed, obviously behind the scenes, many hours in the planning. And plus, Bridget, I appreciate her. Jennifer, could you please send us all a copy of that new fee bill and specifically point out that LAP change? That would be very helpful, I
Yes,
think.
sure.
So anyway, that's my suggestion, Justin.
I'm on board with that. I would like material to review to inform my decision. Or the discussion. I know we're talking about a brainstorming session, but I'm here because of substance use disorder issues. So I don't feel ready to discuss, as I had mentioned before, a broader discussion about how that fits within the State Bar strategic plan. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. If there's information or, obviously the strategic plan is probably something that's available to the public and we can review that on our own. But if there's other materials that you'd like for us to consider in our decision-making process, I really appreciate that being shared with the whole board or the whole committee. And if there's a timing issue, I don't know if there's a timing issue for this brainstorming session and kind of recommendations that need to come from us. It would be good to kind of outline those. Maybe that's something we could outline now. And then maybe we could either do that brainstorming session at our next meeting or see if we can schedule another one, in late October or early November.
Sure. I'll just add that this was kind of the intent today was to kind of cue these things up for the group. It's a 5-year strategic plan, so not everything has to be decided at today's meeting. But I do think it's important for us to start thinking about these things. And to your point, Justin and Jim, that we can perhaps have a longer brainstorm and perhaps a more focused brainstorm at our next meeting But I think just to start getting these concepts out for everyone to start considering, and we will share Leah's slide that she shared, and we can of course share the strategic plan and anything else that you think may be of value to start considering it, and then obviously with a little bit more focus at our next meeting.
And what I would say is that the strategic plan is on the website, so you can access it. The specific operational activities are not yet on the website. So some of the detail that I shared with you, but we will get that out to you. And I will just say this. I think you all could decide that you want to focus your time and energy on a narrower, or what you might view as the core, foundational or fundamental aspect of LAP. Even if that is the case, I think focusing on how we can increase individual utilization just with respect to mental health and substance abuse issues is a really important conversation to have, because those of you that have been around for a while know that, and this goes to some of your comments, Heather, when CLA separated from the bar, there was very serious conversation about LAP going to CLA. And that did not happen. But one of the reasons for that conversation was the low utilization rates in LAP and the concern that people are not interested in getting help for substance abuse, issues that really can impact their license from the regulator. And there's a lot that we need to do, right? There's a separate physical location, not that that matters so much anymore, but pre-COVID separate physical location, sort of an intent to address some of those core concerns. But we really have not seen a significant uptick in individual utilization of the service. So I think if you decide that this other competency related stuff is not maybe your particular interest, or you don't think it's the most important thing for LAP to be doing, I think that's perfectly fine and appropriate. But I would just ask and encourage then that one component of the operational plan is to increase individual utilization, and you really do spend some time there, because I think at some point when we're serving like couple hundred people a year and we've got 200,000 active attorneys, that is a challenge for us. So
Okay, so I'll make it a motion. I'll move that we defer any further discussion on this topic to time when we can all meet together for a day, have presentations by the State Bar staff. I would ask that that motion include that the staff would provide us with their thoughts as to what issues should be addressed or what they would like to see addressed, and would provide us with other basic information that would support our decision-making and our educational process at that time.
I'll second that.
Something I want to get approval for right now is that the rules have been changing a lot because of COVID, of meeting in person or meeting on Zoom or hybrid meetings. And if I'm not mistaken, the current rules are that members can attend to the bar location closest to their home. And so I don't know if it's the committee's intent to all meet in the LA office, or all of them meet in the San Francisco office. But if that's, I guess, let me know, committee. And if that's the case, I don't know if I need any kind of approval to override what I think is the current rule of the committee being.
Sorry, not to interrupt, but they can meet together collectively either in the Los Angeles or San Francisco location. There's a preference for the LA office currently because it's been updated to have Zoom rooms so that there's better ability for the public to watch in a full committee meeting if the public chooses to attend via Zoom. However, the entire committee can meet in person together.
Thank you, Erica.
yeah, and in fact, if anybody wants to also participate remotely, any members of the committee, because you can't attend in person, that functionality also only exists in our LA office space. So there is, I'd say, even more than a strong preference to have in-person meetings in LA, if there will be any hybrid participation, and for public meetings to allow the public to observe via Zoom. We haven't made those investments in San Francisco because we are selling this building.
I think there's a motion on the floor, right?
Yes. There's a motion and a second, so if you could call roll.
Okay,
Can I ask before we do that, just so I'm clear, because I know there was a lot in that motion. And I'm not sure if Jennifer, can you read it back, or do we have to have Jim say it again?
I wrote down as much as I could, but I was actually going to go back and watch the minutes to get a word for word
Right.
description, although I don't think there's the instant rewind that we could all look at, but that is a very good question, Tracy. And Jim, I don't know if you remember exactly. I can read what I have, but I don't think it's anywhere near encompassing of what Jim said.
Okay, it was pretty simple. Defer further discussion until we can meet for a day. Have the state bar present for the first 1 or 2 hours to give us some background and to provide us in writing their staff issues or recommendations of what we consider, what we should consider, what they're asking us to consider, some of the topics at least, so that we could go through and have perhaps a facilitated meeting. If we wanted to have a facilitated meeting, we would have that at that point in time. So I think that kind of summarizes it.
Do you want to put a date in there by a certain date, or just
I'd let the group choose the date through the chair.
Maybe this goes to staff. Would it be okay if our next meeting, our next regularly scheduled meeting is that meeting, or is that a little too long or too late?
Is that the meeting you guys have been talking about?
Yeah, so if we have this, all day meeting or day meeting that we're considering to discuss this particular issue, could we just defer it to our next quarterly meeting, which would be in December? Or is there an urgency such that we need to, do something in November or late October?
Bridget, I'll let you weigh in, but I think with our 5-year strategic plan, I think if the committee continued to want to meet quarterly, that would work. But of course, we could meet sooner if that was the chairs and the rest of the committee's preference.
I agree. I think December would be fine for this conversation.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that our next LAP meeting be focused on, if it passes, Jim's motion and the topic that we're discussing, and that one be in person. Does that sound reasonable?
Does to me.
I just had also a friendly amendment, if I could, to make sure that we get data regarding usage, current usage of the program, both on the regulatory side and the voluntary side. I think it would be very helpful in helping us kind of really tackle the big picture.
I accept that amendment.
This is related to the amendment. Do we have any demographic data related to the participants in the program? Because I think that would be really useful as well.
I think we have been pulling that to the extent we can. I don't know if that has specifically been collected, but I know we've been trying to get a handle on it. So it's probably not perfect, but we can have something to present to you to the best of our ability.
Do you at least have practice area and type of practice that we could get, or do they not report that as well?
Attorneys report all of that, and we do have demographic data. The problem is that the LAP participation is confidential. So we have viewed that as meaning that we can't sort of run the bar number and access the information that we have from other parts of the bar. I don't know if that, if we ask OGC to weigh in, if that's really something that we can't do. but we could take a look at that. So we have the information. It's just not all contained within sort of the LAP universe.
So let me know when you're ready, if there should be a vote on the motion.
Is there any more discussion on the motion? Okay.
Also,
seeing
I'm
none.
gonna ask Erica a message, and Justin, I'm lucky to have Erica here because she's been on a lot of committee. I believe you've been on a lot of committee or had a lot of committee participation, Erica, am I mistaken, or meeting participation?
Yes, but what's the question?
The question is that you had said that a chair couldn't vote on the motion, but can the chair make the motion? I'm assuming they can, but I'm just learning. This is a learning process for me and I appreciate it.
So the chair did not make the motion in this.
Oh,
instance.
Jim did. I'm sorry. Okay.
Do you want to, it seems like the discussion has concluded. So I think you can go ahead and call the roll, Jennifer.
Okay, Heather Benton,
I agree.
Jim Hiding,
Yes.
Tracy Lesage,
Agreed.
Phil Spiegel, Martin Williams,
Yes.
Elise Yenny.
Agree.
Okay, we have a majority there.
Okay, so we will table that discussion until our next meeting, and Jennifer will send out a doodle, and hopefully we can organize that to make it happen for our next meeting.
Okay, and I'm gonna hop off. Thank you for having me. It sounds like there was a little confusion, including on my end with the presentation, but we've gotten to a good place, and I'm hoping I certainly will be able to help work with staff to prep for the December meeting, and would love to be able to join for at least part of the conversation. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, Leah.
So I kind of lost where we are now.
So we can retake up the MCLE item, but I do think to a certain extent it speaks to the broader picture that we just voted on.
I see. Yeah.
With the understanding that, as Randy presented on earlier, that the concept of having an additional hour of MCLE for competency will be discussed at the November board meeting and possibly issued for a public comment period. Again, that meeting occurs middle of November. So while that public comment period is pending, it's likely that we would be engaged in this next LAP Oversight Committee meeting. And so we could certainly discuss the topic in more detail at the time.
Did you say that's a 45-day comment? Are you subject to the APA, or do you have a?
The state bar defaults to a 60-day public comment period in most instances. With the holiday, it could actually, that's kind of around the holidays, so it could actually be extended farther than that. But it would likely be at minimum 45, but more likely a 60-day public comment period.
Got it. Okay, so potentially we could discuss this competency issue within the broader discussion that we're going to have in the next meeting. And it'll still be timely and useful.
Certainly.
Okay. Do we need to move on for that topic, or do we need to move to defer that topic?
No motion required. Actually, all three of our business items today were intended to be discussion items. Yes, so there's no action required on that.
Okay, so we've gone through all of items in C. We've gone through all of the items in D as well.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Well, there are no more items on the agenda. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Do we need to do a roll call on this one?
No, you can go ahead and just adjourn the meeting.
I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. It's great to see you all. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you, if possible, in person in LA sometime in December, and some of you for the very first time in ever, and some who I've haven't seen in person in a long time. So I'm looking forward
Yep.
to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
bye.
everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
You
Thank you.
too.
Bye.
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 Bye.